It is, it is generally observed that more specific and heavy capital good raised the ability of a labor to produce goods. The traditional weaver would take months to weave a sari, but a modern machinery, thousands of pieces of clothing are produced in a day. Decades were taken to construct the great historical movement like the pyramid or the Taj, but the modern construction machinery can build a skyscraper in a few years. More production of newer variety of capital goods, therefore, would help in the greater production of consumer goods. But aren't we contradicting ourselves earlier? We have seen how to the total output of final good of an economy if a larger share goes for production of capital good, a smaller share is available for production of consumer goods, and now we are saving more capital goods would means more consumer goods. There is no contradiction here. However, what is important here is the element of time at a particular period given a level of the total output of the economy. It is true. If more capital goods are produced, less of consumer goods would be produced, but production of more capital goods would mean that in future the laborers would have more capital equipment to work with. We have seen that this lead to for higher capacity of the economy to produce with the same number of laborers. Thus, total input itself would be higher compared to the case when less capital goods were produced. If the total output is higher, amount of consumer goods that can be produced would be surely be higher. John Maynard Keynes John Maynard Keynes, British economist, was born in 1883. He was educated in King's College, Cambridge, United Kingdom, and later appointed its dean. Apart from being a sharp intellectual, he actively involved in international diplomacy during the year the following First World War. He prehised the breakdown of the peace agreement of the war in the book Economic Consequences of the Peace 1919. His book General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money 1936 is regarded as one of the most influential economics book of the 20th century. He was also studied foreign currency spectacular. Thus, the economic cycle not only rolls on the higher production of capital good enables the economy to expand. It is possible to find another view of the circle circular flow in our discuss we have made so far, since we are dealing with all goods and services that are produced for the market. The crucial factor enabling such sale is demand for such production. Based by purchasing power, one must have the necessary ability to purchase commodities, otherwise, one's need for commodities does not get recognized by the market. We have already discussed above that one's ability to buy commodities come from the income one earn as labor earning wages, or as the entrepreneur earning profit, or as landlord earning rent, or as an owner of capital earning interest in a sort. The income that people earn as owner by factors of productions are used by them to meet their demand for goods and services. So we can see a circular flow here, which is facilitated through the market. Simply the put the film demand for factor of production to run the production process creates a payment to the public. In turn, the public's demand for the goods and services creates payment to the firm and enable the sale of the product and they produce. So the social act of the consumption and production are intricately linked, and in fact there is a circular causation here. Process of production in an economy, generation factors payment for those involvement in production and generation goods and services as the output of the production process. The income so generated create the capacity to purchase the final consumption good and thus enable their sale by the business enterprises. The taste, the basic object of their production, the capital good which are also generated in the production process also enable their product producers to earn income, wages, profit, etc. In a similar manner, the capital good add or to maintain the capital stock of an economy and thus make production of the other commodities possible. Topic number 2.2: Circular flow of income and method of calculation national income. The description of the economy in the previous sections enable us to have a rough idea to how a simple economy without a government, external trade or any saving may function. The household receive their payment from the before. There may be fundamentally be four kind of contribution that can be made during the production of goods and services. A contribution made by the human labor, a remuneration for which is called wages. A B contribution made by capital remuneration for which is called the wages. B contribution made by capital remunerant for which is called the interest. C contribution made by entrepreneurship, remuneration of which is profit. D contribution made by the fixed natural resources called land, remuneration for which is called rent. In which the sim, simplified economy, there is only one way in which the household may dispose of their earning by spending their entire income on the goods and services produced by the domestic firms. The other channel of the disposing their income are closed. We have assumed that the household do not save, they do not pay taxes to the government since there is no government, and neither do they buy imported good since there is so external trade-off in the simple economy. In other words, factors of production use their remunerations to buy the goods and services which they assert. assisted in producing the aggregate consumption by the household to the economy. Economy is the equal to aggregate expenditure on goods and services produced by the firm, in which economy the entire income of the economy therefore come back to the producers in the form of sales and revenue. There is no leakage from the system. There is no difference between the amount that firm had distributed in the form of factor of production, which is the sum of the total recreation earned by the four factors of production, and the aggregate consumption expenditure that they receive as a sales revenue in the next period of uh, next period. The firm will once again produce goods and services and pay remunerations to the factors of the production. These remuneration remuneration will once again be used to buy the goods and services. Hence, years after, we can imagine the aggregate income of the economy going through the two sectors, firms and household, in a circular way. This representation in figure 2.1, when the income is being spent on the goods and services produced by the firm, it takes forms of aggregate expenditure received by the firm. Since the value of expenditure must be equal to the value of goods and services, we can equivalently measure the aggregate income by the calculating the aggregate value of goods and services produced by firm. When the aggregate revenue received by the firm is paid out, the factors of production is takes the form of aggregate income in figure 2.1. The uppermost, the uppermost arrow going from the household to the firm to the firm represent the spending and the household undertake to buy goods and services produced by the firm. Second arrow going from the firm to the household in the counterpart of the arrow above. It stands for the good and services which is following flowing from the firm to the household. In other word, this flow is what the household are getting from the firm, for which they are making expenditure. In short, the two arrow on the top represent goods and services services market. The arrow above represent the flow of payment for the good and services. The arrow below represent the flow of good and services. The two arrow at the bottom of the diagram similarly represent the factors of production market. The lowermost arrow going from the household to the firm symbolizes the services that the household are rendering to the firm. Using the services, the firm manufacture the output. The arrow above this going from the firm to the household represent the payment made by the firm to the household for the services provided by the latter. Since the same amount of money represent the aggregate value of the good and services is moving in a circular way, if we want to estimate the aggregate value of good and services produced during a year, we can measure the annual value of flows at any of the dotted lines indicated in the diagram. We can measure the uppermost flow at point A by using measuring the aggregate value of the spending that the firm receive for the final good and services which they produce.